there are all these sort of surprises, and it'll be kind of cut in a way that is very unlikely. You know, you're actually watching it very fresh, like, oh wow, and find yourself like a normal fan, like really curious about what's going to happen.
You're a good kid.
You're a good kid.
It's just sort of emotionally surprising. It tugs on your heartstrings, all those kind of expressions, but in sort of an unlikely way. You know, it makes people cry. But if you look at it, the characters themselves don't necessarily cry. I mean, they'll be terribly sad, but it's hard to cry for a character who's already crying.
Yeah.
You know, there has to be, you know, a certain amount of emotional restraint to keep from crying.
Now, your old man, he saw everything in black and white, no gray.
And there's the tone kind of carries through in every episode. You've got a kind of lump in your throat, you know, that surprises you because you don't. A character does something that's incredibly touching.
Yeah.
Or expresses themselves in a certain way. And so I think people are just sort of responding to the humanity of it, I guess.
You know, he put the war behind him. He never looked back. I wasn't so lucky.
I was too young to be in the Vietnam War, but just by a hair. And so I've always been very interested in that war and a kind of horrific fascination. Long before this, I'd had an interest in the war and had read Tim O'Brien, who wrote a book called The Things They Carry, who co-wrote the episodes involving my character. So I read a lot of him, and I looked at films of John Huston had made a documentary about returning vets from World War II that was just horrific and kind of captured, and he filmed their interviews with doctors. Because war trauma had never been considered, you know, a serious thing.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so I got into that, and you know, sadly, I have members of my family that struggle with both alcoholism and mental issues, you know, depression and things like that. So that wasn't something I was unfamiliar with either.
Yeah.
So I sort of, you know, kept all those things in mind and put myself in an alienated state, and out came Uncle Nicky.
Okay, I think we found our spot. What do you think?
Michael and I actually had worked together before. He played my son in a movie that David Gordon Green directed called Snow Angels. So we already recognized that we had kind of a similar vibe going on. But because of the logistics and the practicalities of shooting, we couldn't get together to, you know, kind of match our mannerisms and stuff.
Look me in the heart and tell me you won't go. Look me in the eye, promise no love's like our love.
We kind of talked afterwards. As I said, there really wasn't time for us to figure out the matching,
Yeah.
but when the show aired, we both saw it, you know, live when it aired. We spoke afterwards and quite honestly just complimented ourselves at how we managed to match each other without even meaning to.
Kevin sees me as family. Well, you know how I see him? I see him as a tall, blonde kid who pulled me from my home, the only place I'm comfortable.
Most of my stuff is with him. Yeah, we see each other afterwards and, you know, go to the gym, and he works out much harder than I do, but he has to, because look at that bod.
Yeah.
And so he's a really funny guy. We have a good time.
How did he die?
A lot of the big three, they don't see each other that much because, you know, they have their own parallel stories.
Yeah.
That are just with, so You know, some of the Nicky stuff, like Thanksgiving and stuff, those events brought everybody together. So being sort of an outsider in that I'm new to the cast, you know, I was always interested in how watching the other people, they hadn't seen each other in weeks at a time. You know, how much they like each other and are curious about each other's lives, and to hear them catch up on, you know, on what they're into and stuff like that.
There was a fire? He got us out, but he had a heart attack from smoke inhalation.
You know, we were under strict orders not to reveal too much about our futures.
Okay.
But I do know, and anyone watching closely enough knows that I'm going to be married at some point. So I've got some kind of love interest happening. And there's been all sorts of speculation about who that might be.
Yeah.
But even I can't say, and I'm not really sure.